Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride. It is Sunday, the 8th of September in the year 2024, and I am broadcasting this, or recording this, from lovely Escazú, Costa Rica, where it is mid-afternoon. And we have a lot to talk about because there's a lot going on. And I'm going to start by saying I'm very aware of energy, and of course, just by the nature of what I do, but I am very aware of energy, and I am very concerned because right now we're in a very intense time, and it feels like there's stress in the air, and there is heaviness. And of course, we just got through Sun opposite Saturn, which was last night or this morning, depending on where you live, or, during the day today, depending on where you live. And so we're still in the Sun-Saturn opposition, which is a heavy energy. But when I'm talking to people who aren't necessarily astrologers or don't know much about astrology, and when I'm talking to other astrologers, what I'm finding is, okay, astrologers know there's a lot going on right now, a lot. And we have a lot going on, which I'm going to talk about this week, next week, in the coming weeks and the coming months. And I did post some things on Instagram during the week about this, but I'll review it here as well. What I want people to understand is that we are in a very big time of change, and we are releasing the past, and we're releasing the last 16 years on one level, and that's Pluto. And then there are other things that are going to accompany this, other aspects, other patterns, other astrology things, okay? Simultaneously, I have people around me who work with global companies. Now, there's one friend that works with there's two friends actually that work with a global architecture company, and they are dealing with stuff all over the world. So even though they're located in Costa Rica, one is a Tico, one is a Brazilian, they are dealing with things all over the world, architecturally speaking. And one of them told me yesterday that, the big investors are holding on to their money until they find out what the election is going to do in the United States. Okay, I have to say this. I'm not political, but I have to say this. It wasn't like this when I was a kid. And I said this to my friend yesterday. It wasn't like this when I was a kid. This election is crucial, and it doesn't come down to the election. That's an excuse. It's not about the election. It's about global collective change. And yes, it is represented by the election. You could say that for sure. And markets might get rocked and things might change. But what's really going on is Pluto is leaving Capricorn, and Capricorn is a sign of commerce and governments and banking and people in charge and the patriarchy. And this is all coinciding with that election in the U.S. Now, it wasn't like this when I was a kid. Hey, and we had Watergate, okay? Nobody, when Nixon was getting elected, was like, this is a crucial election. Well, maybe some people were, but not like this. The world did not stop because there was an election in one country, okay? And it doesn't stop. And we have to keep going. And this is my point right now. There's a lot going on these next months. You cannot hold on for dear life. You can't. We have to move. We have to move forward, and we have to take one step at a time. And this is about our experience these last 16 years and what we have to let go of. Okay? So what we are now shifting to, as far as that election is concerned, I can't give you an answer. Some astrologers will predict it. I bet there's a bias in that. But I wouldn't even attempt to, because there's too many factors, and we are entering a new paradigm of which we don't really know what's going to happen going forward. And that is the answer here. We don't know what's going to happen. Okay? We don't. We don't know because we are at the end of something and we are beginning something new. And we're ending a cycle from 16 years and we're starting something brand new, okay? And we've had flavors and tastes of this new cycle since March of 2023, but it's come in bits and pieces. And in the last week, Pluto has left Aquarius, where it's been most of this year, and has gone back into Capricorn. Most of this whole year will be spent with Pluto in Aquarius. But there's this last piece from, like I told you, September 1st to November 19th that Pluto is in Capricorn, and that encompasses the date of that election. But what Pluto tells us is we don't understand what's coming, and we can't control it. We can't control what's next. We can control our own lives as best to our ability, and that's fine. But what's not fine is holding on for dear life. You're not going to spend any money. You're not going to spend a dime doing anything. You're not going to share anything. You're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to, use your resources because you don't know what the future holds. We never know what the future holds. Never. And I'm an astrologer. Yes, I can tell you themes. I can tell you patterns. I can tell you the ups and downs. I can look specifically at your astrological chart and put a bet on what I think is going to happen. But I always keep the door open for wild card things. I'm an Aquarius, for Christ's sake. I have too much Uranus in my chart to not keep the door open for wild, unexpected energies to shoot their way through the door. Okay? We have to always expect that. I don't know what this Pluto in Aquarius is specifically going to bring. Now, we knew specifically back in the day of the Pluto and Capricorn days that pretty much there was going to be some financial crisis because it is Capricorn, and that's where the Capricornian energy mostly lies, in the banking and the government, and as I just said, the patriarchy, everything. Aquarius is not that. Aquarius is the super future. Aquarius is flying cars. Aquarius is AI. Aquarius is the unknown to a certain degree, because when we start talking about Aquarius, we talk about Uranus. When we talk about Capricorn, we talk about Saturn. Saturn is relatively predictable and relatively grounded, because that's the energy Saturn brings, and that we need that. It's discipline. We have to have discipline. We don't get anything done without it. But when we start talking about the realm of Uranus, there's expect the unexpected, and I've said this 1,000 times. If you've been listening to me for the last 6.5 years, you know that Uranus is all about leaving the door open for some crazy energy to shoot through, and that's Aquarius. So there's already been unexpected things in that election, but we are going into the eclipses, and next week, not this coming week, but the week after, there's going to be the first eclipse. Eclipses are wild cards too. We can have some understanding of what is coming forward as a result of the eclipse, but usually when there are eclipses, there are wild card factors that we hadn't considered before. Remember the October surprise? Well, there's an eclipse in October. So that this would figure into the election? Why not? Of course it would. The election is something that's going on right now, and the eclipses are leading up to that. So we have to let go of the control that we mistakenly think we have. We can control our reactions to things. We can control a certain amount of our life, and then wild things could come in through the door. And we're going into Pluto and Aquarius, and this is outer planet material. This is not a whole, predictable thing. Saturn is more predictable than Uranus, okay? So we are now going into a world where an outer planet is going to be in the sign of another outer planet, okay? And that's the way it's going to be for a long, long time. Pluto goes into Aquarius. It's ruled by Uranus, and it's going to be there for the next 20 years. And then, God willing, we're all here when Pluto goes into Pisces. And Pluto goes into Pisces, and Pisces is ruled by Neptune. So it's another outer planet. So we've got years ahead of us, many decades ahead of us, of deep transformation And the end of the zodiac is always about deep transformation. It's about like big cycles ending before new cycles begin. We saw that back in like 2011 when Uranus was going into Aries and it was leaving Pisces where it had been for 7 8 years. And Uranus went into Aries and it started the zodiac all over again. Now it's coming to the end of Taurus and it's going to go into Gemini next year. But my point is, there's always endings and new beginnings. And we are at the point of some very deep endings and then deep new beginnings. And these are the energies that are going to be with us for a long, long time. We got to go with the flow. We have to acknowledge and honor the transition and whatever we are leaving behind, whatever has been good to us or maybe not so good for us in this last 16 years, and how we can move forward. Now, yes, of course, this feeds into anything that's going on this earth, whether it's politics, whether it's war, whether it's, fads in fashion, in technology, in anything, okay? So things are going to change. And this is why everybody's holding on for dear life. It's the end of a big collective cycle. And it's a change in the collective unconscious. And it requires all of us to just not hold on for dear life and move with the times. One thing you hear over and over again, every generation, well, we didn't do it like that when, I grew up. Right. We didn't. And I can't believe these kids today, those things. Every generation says these things. And here I am saying, well, it wasn't like this when I was a kid. Elections weren't like this. No, that's a different thing. That's a different thing. That just shows how divided it has become, because it wasn't this divided in the U.S. when I was growing up. It wasn't. So this collective cycle of change is important for each of us to pay attention to acknowledge, to honor, and to move forward with. We're moving forward. We're not going backwards. Holding on for dear life is not going to assist you and help you, okay? As the rain falls in my background, if you feel that this energy is very heavy for you and you are interested in working with someone, come work with me. You can work with me in astrology and I can describe everything and how it affects you over these next, and it's going to be months and months and months of some changes, which we're going to talk about. But also, I have expansion mentoring where we can work together 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and I can bring you through all of the transitions we're going to be seeing, especially over the next year, with Neptune and Uranus changing signs next year. So more collective changes, okay? We're in big collective changes. It's a great time to start mentoring with someone who's going to work with you. It's not just astrology. I work with emotions. I work with energies. And that's what it's about. It's the energetics. So now Mars has gone into the sign of Cancer. We saw that last week. And one of the things that I was talking about last week was that on Instagram is that this is a long journey. And Mars going into Cancer is going to, so Mars does not love to be in Cancer because it's an assertive planet and a warrior planet and a very emotional sign. And Mars works better in Capricorn where it's exalted, in Aries where it rules, in Scorpio where it's co-ruler and ancient ruler. So it's more emotions and feelings that could feel not comfortable. But Mars will stay there till the beginning of November. It will then go into the sign of Leo because that's how the zodiac works. And then Mars is in Leo and not moving past 6 degrees for 2 months. So it's going to go into Leo like around the 3rd of November. And it's going to then go very slowly in Leo till about December 6th when it turns retrograde and it's at 6 degrees of Leo, and it goes backwards in Leo back to the 0 degrees that it was till about early January 6th or 7th, when it goes back into Cancer. And it's staying in Cancer from early January until mid-April. So this ingress of Mars into Cancer last week is starting a major cycle that's going to go till next April. Okay? This is why things aren't going to just be better with the election, okay? We are looking at longer terms here that are affecting us, and we're working with them. The beginning of November, we'll see Mars go into Leo, a fire sign that Mars likes, and then affects the people who are born at the end of January, that's the beginning of Aquarius. The people who are born at the end of April, that's the beginning of Taurus. The people born at the end of July, that is Leo. And the people born at the end of October, which is Scorpio, all the early parts of the fixed signs. And that's because Mars is going to be triggering all of that, okay? Because it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere past 6 degrees of Leo. So if you're born after those times, like you're a February Aquarius or something, or an April Taurus, you're not getting this. You're getting it. You'll get it to some degree, but not like those people born in the early parts of those 4 fixed signs. This is very dramatic because Mars is going to be toying with Pluto at that time. Pluto will go from Capricorn to Aquarius in November, and Mars is going to go along with it as it opposes Pluto and Capricorn for the last time, makes a stressful aspect of Pluto and Capricorn for the last time. And remember COVID in 2020 when Mars was, dancing with Pluto during those last months of 2020, from like August onward until the end of December. And Mars was very involved squaring Pluto. So this is the last hurrah for a dance that Mars and Pluto are going to have in the sign of Capricorn. And then they will start dancing with one another between Leo and Aquarius, okay? And so this is dramatic. This is a lot of energy. This is a lot of, push-pull back and forth. Mars and Pluto are intense together. This is intense. So what we want to see is a good use of this energy. It's really good to do something that requires passion and energy and vigor. And, it's good to start exercising. It's good to focus on things that you want to change in your life, Though once Mars goes retrograde in early December, this is not going to be a great time to initiate something. So it's talking to us from a different perspective, okay? Very powerful. I'm reminded of that Mars-Pluto at the end of 2020 and that experience of Mars and Pluto dancing together 3 times, and some of that time was when Mars was retrograde. So it's an intense energy. We're going to talk more about it as the months progress. But like I said, if you want to know how this personally affects you, we're going to be talking about that, one-on-one if you come to see me. Okay. So we're already in the cycle. We're already in it. Mars is in Cancer. It's going to stay a long time in Cancer. It's going to dip into Leo for 2 months, 2 whole months of only the beginning of Leo, and then go back into Cancer for months, and then go back into the beginning of Leo again in mid-April. So this is something to pay attention to, and we're already on the cycle, okay? So that's part of it. In other worlds, Mercury just finished the story with Uranus. It was squaring Uranus yesterday. It's completely done with that. We're fine. But Mercury is now in a little story with Pluto and Neptune, which it's done already. It's already done the story at the end of Leo, very end of Leo, before it goes into Virgo. Probably tomorrow, wherever you live, because most of the world it's going to be tomorrow that Mercury goes into Virgo. It's 2:50 a.m. tomorrow morning, Eastern time. And the only people who are going to get it, like Pacific time, Hawaii time, Alaska time, tonight, 11:50 p.m. Pacific time, Mercury goes into Virgo. So this is a little dance that Mercury is in that needling aspect, the inconjunct between Neptune and Pluto, and it forms what we call a yod, or a finger of God. This gives us an option, a choice. We have seen this back in July, about the 25th, 26th or so. This is when Mercury was in conjunct Neptune and then when in conjunct Pluto in an out of sign yod. Because Mercury went into Virgo, Pluto was still in Aquarius then. So now we've got a tighter yod. Now a yod is a karmic pattern. Everyone's getting this. This isn't something that is just in one person's chart. We're all getting it. And Mercury is the apex planet. And therefore, there is a message in this. We look to receive some sort of message, karmic message, intuitive message, physical message. Somebody may say something to you. There is a message in this. And it's really today. You may feel it tomorrow, but it's really today, and you may glean some information from a situation in your life or something. There's often a turning point with yods, but you can use it to glean deeper information about a situation. And especially in this case, when we're dealing with outer planets and Mercury, I would say there's an intuitive message. So follow the hunch, listen to the hunch, work with the hunch, okay? Mercury is moving out of its shadow on Thursday, the 12th. Mercury will finally get back to the point in Virgo where it was when it went retrograde back in early August. So we're done. Before that, right before that, the night before, Mercury on Wednesday will make a nice sextile to Mars in Cancer. So again, information coming forward. And pleasantly, this is not difficult or complicated or, shocking. Like that was already with Uranus, okay? Mercury square Uranus these last couple of days. For me, that wasn't shocking information so much as confusing information. And I'm like, boy, Mercury really is not out of its shadow yet, because there's missed messages, there's misconceptions, there's misinformation, those kinds of things. I experienced this during this Mercury Uranus. But it could be key for you to listen to this hunch that's coming today. Pay attention to Mercury and Mars on Wednesday, and Mercury leaves its shadow on Thursday. So Mercury's a busy bunny this week, okay? Then, very nicely, so we had the Sun. Remember that Jupiter and Saturn are still near in the square to one another. We had the Sun opposite Saturn, which is that heaviness, which I feel like has finally lifted a bit, because I felt like I was carrying a burden, a weight, something, carrying it around on my shoulders, in my gut these last couple of days. And finally today it feels like it's dissipating. Now the Sun will go square Jupiter on Thursday. So remember, the Sun sort of moved in that dynamic between Jupiter and Saturn that we've been dealing with, and the Sun is now going to square Jupiter. So that's not a bad aspect. It's an aspect that might ask us to expand ourselves a little bit, and it might be uncomfortable. Stretching ourselves requires growing and changing in our lives, and Jupiter is there to help us and assist us in doing that. So this is what it may feel like. You may be pushed to expand. And the Sun is in Virgo, so it may be you want to stay very practical and close to home about certain things, and Jupiter's saying, no, we got to think bigger about this. Maybe Jupiter is asking you to step up the exercise program, because after all, the Sun is in Virgo, and that's about health. Maybe Jupiter is going to make you aware of something that you want to bring into focus now with the Earth sign of Virgo, So this is something else we're dealing with. The other interesting thing is that Venus and Saturn are in an inconjunct, and that is, again, that little uncomfortable aspect. It's in an inconjunct by itself. This is no yod, but it was in an inconjunct when Mercury started that dynamic back at the end of July. So I think that's interesting. There's some patterns going on here that are similar to things we were doing at the end of July. Now, Venus is also going to make a very nice relationship to Jupiter between next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, depending on where you live. And that is in the air sign. So this Venus is in Libra, one of her favorites, and Jupiter is in Gemini, where it's been for a few months now. And so this is a very nice communicative experience. If you need to communicate love to someone, that's very good. If you need to communicate creativity to someone or something, or maybe you're teaching a class, or maybe you're going to be using your creativity in a new way, great for that. Excellent for creativity. Excellent. So this is one of the things we want to pay attention to this week, is that this nice, relaxed, smooth flowing dynamic between Venus and Jupiter, which doesn't happen very often, is available to us this week to use in our creativity, to use in our work, our mental faculties, things we need to think about, create, intellectually. Maybe learning something new, but also in the dynamics of relationships, whether you want to ask your boss for a raise, whether you want to express love to someone, maybe for the first time. These are all, dynamics of Venus and Jupiter. And it's also to have a good time. It's a great social thing, especially with the dynamics of Libra and Gemini. It's great for going out and talking and socializing and networking and connecting. So it's a good networking aspect. If you've got a network for your business, expect it to be good during that time. Venus and Jupiter helps us just flow a little better with life. So we like that. It doesn't happen very often. Appreciate it. Don't go crazy shopping. Don't make assumptions about people. Jupiter and Venus. Oh yeah, they'll do me that favor. Maybe not. Use it wisely. And think with it. Use it thoughtfully and with mindfulness, because it is in the air signs. And on that note, someone might do something very thoughtful for you that you didn't expect. So that's a good thing. Next week we move into the eclipse, which is the 17th. In the meantime, you may start to feel energies picking up, getting a little more intense, maybe a little more erratic. And just remember, we're moving into the eclipse, okay? Once we hit that 17th of September till October 2nd, we're in the eclipse corridor, okay? This is not the eclipse path. This is the corridor. The path is where it's going on the geographical map. This is where we don't want to really initiate something new, okay? That goes and all across the board in life. It could be a variety of areas, especially relationships. It might not be the best time to initiate a new date with someone new. It's not the best time to start a new business and get a brand new business idea. I have been there. I have been there when I started to create a business with a friend, and it just fell apart. It fell apart. And I should have known better, but when things are happening and you're in the energy and you're like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, hey, that's a great idea. Poof. So watch that eclipse corridor. Watch that you don't fall in. Okay? And just pay attention these next months, because we've got all sorts of time periods where it's not great to start something. And we've got an enormous amount of astrology happening between now and next April, because Venus is going to go retrograde after Mars is finished. So I highly recommend that if you've not had a session with me, that you really should sit down with me and go over all of this, because we are getting socked with a lot of changes, things that are inconvenient, things that are going to be confusing, and rarely do I see a time period so extended. Usually it's a few weeks here, a few weeks there, eclipses, maybe a retrograde, but this is something dramatic. It's not scary. I don't want you to get scared, but I want you to understand that there's a lot of inconveniences and discomforts and shifts and changes that are happening that are not things that normally go on, and we need to be prepared for it, okay? We've got lists. I can make a huge list, and I probably will do that on Instagram. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, it's the Golden Astrologer. There's going to be Pluto finally going direct on the 11th of October, and that's going to be full speed ahead into Aquarius. That's the end of this retrograde, and the end of Pluto in Capricorn will be approaching. We've got Jupiter going retrograde on the 9th, 2 days prior. We've got, the eclipses, September 17th, October 2nd. We've got the whole Mars retrograde thing where it's going to be between Cancer and Leo for months and months and months. Then we're going to have Mercury retrograde again before the end of the year. We are going to have Mars and Pluto in that dance. We're going to have Venus going retrograde in March of next year after Mars finishes. This is a lot. Okay, everybody? And when we get deeper, yes, you're going to hear it on the podcast. I'm going to talk about it. But it's such a long stretch of time that it's really a great time to sit down and figure out what you're going to do over these next months. You can come to me, get your chart read. You can buy a bundle of astrology sessions so that you know, like, over these next months, you can keep coming back and we can talk about this. Or you can do the expansion mentoring, like I said, so that we can guide you through whatever this is and whatever you need, whether it's in your business, your personal life. All of those things will definitely apply to this next time period, because there's going to be moves we all have to make. We have to keep walking. We have to keep going forward. But there are exceptions to the rules in all of that. And there are specific times when it's better to, step forward and better to step back. It's complicated. These are complicated months ahead. Okay, so I want you to remember that. Don't be afraid to go forward, though. We have to keep moving. As I said, don't hold on for dear life. Planets are going to keep going. Pluto's going to go into Aquarius. We've got to wrap it up. We've got to wrap up the last 16 years. That's fine. That's good. It's good. Progress is good. Especially Aquarius is very progressive. Very progressive. So look towards the progressive. Look towards the progressive ideas in your life and what makes sense going forward. Just let go right now and trust the universe. You've got to trust the universe, and you got to trust yourself. And we are always, all the time, co-creating with the universe. So we are working in tandem with that, whether we realize it or not consciously. It's not all you, okay? There are bigger forces. And I said that way back in New York Magazine. There are bigger forces involved. And we are all connected to that. So, and we're all connected to each other. Let's work together. Let's stay focused during this time. Let's stay grounded and keep moving in the direction that you want your life to go. There's got to be things. There's a navigation to all of these months. Yes, and that's why I'm here. Thank you so much for listening. Let's work together. I'm available through the Golden Astrologer website. Go to thegoldenastrologer.com, click book now. You can book any of my services. I'm on Instagram, The Golden Astrologer. I am here at this podcast week after week, and I welcome you to contact me, deb@debmcbride.com or info@thegoldenastrologer.com. And let's talk. How are you feeling? Let me know. How's it going with Pluto stepping backwards into the realms of the last 16 years? And let's stay in touch. Thank you for listening. I wish you a beautiful week. Gratitude to all.